Sara Merritt. I work at Ryman Gardens at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, doing educational programming and all kinds of things like that. I also teach classes here at the Workspace, which is in the basement of the Memorial Union of Iowa State University. And I teach classes like drawing, portrait drawing, oil painting, acrylic painting, mixed media, done printmaking, stained glass, lots of things, lots of classes. And then of course I do have my own artistic practice, which is in a little bit of a hiatus at the moment, just because of my current situation, which is interesting. When I was younger, I used to draw, just doodle all the time, and actually I used to doodle lamps and lampshades, you know, because I liked the symmetry and I liked the weird shapes you could come up with, and it was very odd. But I didn't really get into art like hardcore until high school, and it really came out of the experiences that I had with body image issues, developing and being kind of, having some deformities and having some really, really strong issues with self-image and what I was supposed to look like versus what I did look like, what I felt like versus what I looked like, that kind of thing. My idea of beauty really kind of diverged, and I was very confused about it, and that's kind of where I started really getting into visual expression, just as a way to go through, to work through confusion, to work through anger, to work through just the unknown, and to be expressive about all of that stuff without saying all of that stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of where I started. I got into a couple of schools, but I went to SFAI and then learned a great deal there and really expanded my practice there. I started being very controlled and very small and very, using this kind of automatic process. But the instructors and my peers mostly were absolutely instrumental in helping me get my practice to where it is now, which went from this big to work wall size or whatever, and really experimenting with materials as well as forms, and then really expanded my what had been a practice of collage that was my thesis. I used collage for my thesis show when I was an undergrad, and it was magazine images of women that were altered or subverted or changed a little bit to say something else, or to change the power relationship or whatever it was, or to be funny or to be political or whatever. And so I kind of built that into what I was doing with this ink, and just kind of went crazy from there. And so now I really work at what essentially drew me to art in the first place, which was a way to become something else, a way to transform from one thing to another while being a solid object in the first place. I don't know if that makes any sense, but what I was kind of trying to do was say, what I like to take is pattern or form from popular media, magazines, newspapers, television, just pattern, and then work from that pattern and distort it and change it and alter it and turn it into a different media. So I start with that, that glossy magazine image, and then I work with ink, and then I elongate that pattern, or I change it in some way, and then I add paint, and then I add, polymer, which is like a plastic to make a skin, and then I really, through that process, really came back to where the art came from in the first place, which was in my body. It was basically, we are very much like paper. We're very much inscribed upon and written upon and altered and breakable, but ultimately reformable. And so that's why I love working on paper. But through all of that stuff, the thing that even if I'm not working on my own artwork, which has been true for probably the last year or so. What really keeps me going and really like fires my will to art or whatever is teaching. I love teaching, whatever it is. Whether it's teaching, 4 + 4 is 8, that's fine, that's great and wonderful. But I really love teaching drawing, teaching painting, teaching the fine arts and crafts even, because it's very physical, and it's a way to bring the body back into memory and cognition, and to really activate your different parts of your brain, and then every student that I work with gives me something as well, challenges my way of seeing things, or challenges my way of teaching. And so there's always room for growth, there's always room for improvement, and there's always room for looking at something a different way, which is the goal for me, is to just always see something a different way. If I can sum it up, body image is when you're in high school, and body image when you're like close to 40. I'm not really, I'm 31, but whatever. It's when you're younger, you've got it. You're beautiful, but you think you're the worst ever. And when you're older, you may not be so beautiful, but you think you're pretty awesome. So that perceptive change is the most interesting thing for me. But when I was, so to get this really personal, you can cut this out if you want to, but when I was around 7th grade, I had realized that my breasts were developing differently. One was much, much larger than the other. And I was like, okay, well maybe this is just like this weird thing and it'll fix itself eventually. And it did not, it really didn't. It just kept getting worse. And it was also the first time that you have physical education and that you're put into a locker room with other people. And I was like, hold on. I was like, these two things do not go together very well. So I became really, really, really introverted. And I was kind of shy before, but I became really, really introverted. And I became really, really angry because I felt like I was a really beautiful person. Or at least I had, things to offer other people. And I felt like I was a good person. I felt like, I was worthy. But seeing this physical manifestation was like, maybe you're not, because all media really just kind of reiterates and kind of exacerbates this idea that the way you look is the way that you are, and I think it's getting a little better, but it never really does. At about my junior year, I had kind of lost some of the weight that I had put on just from being overly active, just from doing stuff all the time. And I was starting to really feel like, okay, I started to kind of accept myself for who I was, and then really, I was like, how do I deal with all of this stuff? And it was really through drawing. So I would draw things that I thought were ugly, things that I thought were grotesque. I would draw. I would try to see the beauty in everything, and to the point where it was probably really annoying. But that really, really helped me because I realized that my definition of beauty was wacky, wildly changing, and partially probably because of my own body, but really just more of my own perception, just really being observant and aware of what all of the things that I was seeing. And so drawing really helped me with that, because drawing is really about seeing. It's not about this, and it's not about being artistic when you're first getting there. It's not about anything except for, is that what you're seeing? What exactly are you seeing? It's not something that you have categorized. It's not something that you're imagining. It's not something that you have filed away somewhere as an icon or a symbol of something. It is what it is. You're looking at stuff. How are you seeing it? And so that really helped me. Like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going here. So, and at the same time, my mom had said, well, this isn't changing. It's obviously not a phase that your body is going through. Like, this is something that is now, it's not going to change. What do you think about surgery? And so I was kind of like, oh God, I never even thought of it. I never even considered it. And I had a doctor at the time who also was like, well, maybe it's something we should think about, because, I mean, it was causing me depression, it was causing me anxiety, it was causing me all these things. I couldn't have a relationship with anyone. I couldn't even begin to step in the process to go that way. It was just like, no, that's not happening. And so we really thought about it, and I finally did get surgery. So the summer after my junior year of high school, I had an augmentation on the left side, so I had an implant, and then the right side I had sort of reduced and kind of shifted around. It sounds really weird, but so that they were kind of equal. And I was really nervous about that because my whole artistic vision was that, you know, there are things that we see that are real and things that we see that aren't real, and why can't they be the same, or why can't one be the other? And so I had this problem after having this surgery, that like I was now manipulated. I had manipulated my body to fit into this idea of what's normal and what's standard and what's beautiful. And so I felt odd still. I felt like I had a foreign object, you know, like I was foreign. And it was very strange. But that also really helped like develop that artistic practice, because it was really about how do I make things come together? So how do I make this weird, like this is unreal and this is real? How do I make those two things come together? Because that's really what our reality is. It's a combination of all of that stuff. It's a combination of an exaggeration of what already is there and a manipulation of what shouldn't be there or what you think should be. So I was like, well, that's me. You know, that's what I've done to myself. So why not do that to paper and, you know, to other things?
Wow.
So,
what would you say to someone kind of in your same spot in life?
well, really the only thing that I can say, and this is, so I'm going to start with what might seem like a cliche, but my dad, who's a history teacher, kind of helped me, you know, instilled in me when I was younger, this quote from Teddy Roosevelt, which is, do what you can with what you have, where you are. And it's not about limiting yourself to what you're surrounded with. It's really about opening up your whole surroundings and using anything and everything that you can, anything and everything at your power, at your, you know, disposal, to come up with a new idea, to